I like to say the myth in Myth and Moonshine is that it's not really about the moonshine, it's about the food. My name's Kevin Cauthorne. I'm the executive chef at Myth and Moonshine. We focus primarily on moonshine. We infuse it into the food. We serve flights of 4 or 5 different shots. We have over 70 different kinds. It's a really great place to come out and try a large variety of moonshine drinks. We have a kitchen staff that's all been trained up from scratch. They all started out as dishwashers. They were all trained by me. It's a really fun environment to work in. Everybody gets along really well. It's very authentic Baltimore, right down in the middle of Canton. Great for large parties, great for small events. We do a little bit of everything here. I'm a self-taught chef. I worked for 2 years under a couple good chefs in the city, and then I was very much thrown into the current position that I'm into now, which means everything that we do on our menu has been tried and tested with very little knowledge besides what we could find online or what I could find out from books. And our whole farm-to-table thing started by me going down to the Fells Point Farmers Market, sourcing through local purveyors there, making various connections that have really helped up our menu game. When it comes down to fresh seafood, it's always been something that, believe it or not, even working in Baltimore, not a lot of my chefs focused on. The trouble with that is, I think chefs and home cooks have this idea that seafood is just expensive. So it's not a product that you want to bring in if you really don't know what you're doing. However, for us, we had the opportunity to start working with oysters. We used to get what they call Count's oysters. Just they come in a bucket and you deep fry them. Recently, we started working with Capital Seaboard, who goes through more fresh oysters than any other seafood company in the Mid-Atlantic region. So they're always fresh. They're constantly getting a new supply. And I really learned a lot talking with my rep about locally sourcing oysters specifically from farms in the Chesapeake. I mean, buying local always helps. When we buy from local farmers, it's good for the economy in Maryland. It's good for the small families that do these things. But oysters are an entire another beast in terms of how much it really improves not just the economy and all the things that regular farm-to-table sourcing does, but it also improves the water quality of the bay. By cleaning the water, removing algae, removing bacteria, removing sediment, removing pollution, what that allows the water to do is support seagrasses. And when seagrasses are supported and able to grow in clean waters, mostly around these oyster farms, that leads to better crab, that leads to better shrimp, that leads to better fish. It all around improves the overall quality of the Chesapeake better than anything else you can do. And it's very rare as a chef to be able to just purchase something and sell it and also be doing something so good for the environment and so good for our state. The best way to eat an oyster when you first get one is to taste it. Just open it up. Don't add anything to it. You don't need salt. You don't need anything. You pry open that shell. You take a little sip of the juice, sort of prime your mouth a little bit for what's about to happen, because a good oyster, it's going to feel like you just got tossed in the waves, because oysters are like a fine wine. Even in the same region, you might have 2 different farms located a few miles apart. Those oysters, because of what they're filtering and just where they are, they're going to have slightly different taste to them. So it's also fun to play around getting from different farms just to see the little intricacies, and then just all you have to do from that point is just get a little creative. What really matters with oysters is the temperature of the water. So if you're pulling oysters out of 70, 75, 85 degree water, like, they're obviously not going to be very good. But when that water is nice and cold, like right now in the middle of January, the middle of February, now's the time to source locally. And again, sourcing locally like that, I mean, it helps Chesapeake, it helps our state, it helps everything. We take an honest approach to farm to table. I don't have the staff and I don't have the time to source everything locally as I would like. We also like to keep our prices a little bit lower. So essentially what we do is we go through a mainliner and then a large seafood company for I'd say probably 60% of our menu, and then the other 40%, anything that I can get locally that makes economic sense for us to keep the restaurant doors open, we do it that way. And then we put on our menu specifically like what farms do we work with, what products do we use that are made by local artisans, some of our hot sauces, things like that. So it's very clear like what's farm to table here and what isn't. And if you take an honest approach, build slow, you can really start doing some good just by doing what you like to do anyway.